Dos Spookquenos is a proud member of
the Barelas Podcasters Guild.
The Oracle Network.
This is Dos Spookquenos,
a funnier look at the paranormal in New Mexico.
with your co-ghosts, Eric Carter Landine.
And Alex.
What's up, Alex?
Hey Eric, how are you doing?
I'm good. Super happy that season 2 it's out. It's running. It's going.
It's
We're starting.
up and running.
Yeah.
Rolling down the hill.
Yep.
The shit show season has begun. Right off the cliff.
So I love what's happening with season 2. It's super fun, and it's cool to see the people on social media saying things like "finally" and how excited they are that we're back.
Yeah, that made me happy.
Me too.
That made me glow inside. They like us.
They really like us. So, what is going on? Anything?
Not much, man. You know, got my first COVID shot.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited about that. It's like weird because it's kind of a really good feeling of hope.
Yeah.
And like some kind of potential normalcy from what we have been dealing with. And so that makes me very happy.
Yeah.
You know, all hail science.
Hail science.
Hail science.
I am getting my second one on Wednesday. So in a couple of days, I'll have my second shot, which is
air high five.
Air high five.
Yeah, don't touch
COVID
me.
safe high five.
Don't fucking touch me.
Yeah, man, it's a good relief. I hope that more people do it so that it actually works.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I know there's a lot of people out there that are kind of weary of it, and knock it off.
Cut it out.
Stop it. I want to go back and feel safe. You know, but you know, no matter what you do, keep yourself safe. We should make that a shirt. Fucking hail science.
Yes. Fuck yes.
Doesn't that sound dope? Like
yes.
A pentagram, and then
it'd be like Charles Darwin's head in the middle.
Yeah. Yes, dude. That's actually really funny, man. We might have to. We can do something like that. We don't even have to draw that up either. We could just kind of do that on
the computer.
On the computer somehow. Yeah. Hail science.
Hail science. Okay, so episode 1 of season 2 scared the shit out of me.
I know. You didn't sleep for like 2 or 3 days.
Episode 2 was a little bit more lighthearted.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
People don't know that yet because they'll know it when they hear this.
Which one is it? I can't remember now.
It's the OnlyFans episode.
The OnlyFans. You'd be on the lookout in our link tree for OnlyFans.
Yeah,
it's happening.
What did we talk about? I don't remember.
I can't even remember, man.
Oh, it was Haunted Hotels Part 2.
Oh yeah,
that's right. Okay.
Yeah. It was last weekend. Not even. No, it's been a couple.
It's been a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
We took a week off just because we've both been kind of dealing with a bunch of crazy shit. So, but I'm excited about today. You
are excited about this one. I wasn't really sure what we were going to do next. And one morning I just got a text from you saying, can we do it? Can we do it? And I was like, okay. You were so happy. So let's do it.
Yeah. Well, let me give you some kind of background on why I'm excited about this and what it is. So when I was, I don't know, 11, 12, maybe, my mom used to drop me off at the library in Socorro, like, for hours. So she would literally just drop me off there
just to get rid of you for a few hours.
Well, I would beg her to take me there.
Oh, even better.
Because I loved it.
Right.
I've always been a bit of a nerd in a lot of ways.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm super nerdy. So
there's nothing wrong with that.
So, you know, at that time, things were starting to finally calm down in my childhood. And so I found like solace and kind of an escape in books. And the books that I was always drawn to were Bermuda Triangle, aliens, unexplained things, anything that was just weird and out there. I just loved it and I ate it up and I wanted to know more about it. And one of the things that another part of my story is that I was a very fearful child. Like I was afraid of everything. Everything is going to kill me. You know, if there if there was like a new virus that was out, like I've got it.
Right.
I have it right now.
I've already had it.
I'm
And
dying.
I'm dying now.
Now.
Once you hear about cancer, you're like, great.
Yeah,
I
I've
know
got
I
that.
have,
Yeah.
I have 18 times different kinds of
Yeah,
cancer.
it's everywhere. It's all over my body. So I did the same thing with all of these weird, like I used to scare the shit out of myself, but I also loved it. It's almost like that's kind of translated into my love of horror and true crime and all the stuff that I'm into now. But one of the things that really freaked me the fuck out, and it still kind of freaks me out a little bit when I think about it, is spontaneous human combustion.
Ooh.
And the biggest thing for me is that, like, when I first read it, I'm like, how the fuck does this happen? First of all. And I know that there's been probably a lot of things that have come out since the 80s about it, and like maybe debunking some of it, but I just wanted to talk about it because it was nightmare fuel for me.
Am I just gonna like catch fire and explode?
I mean, if you do, I will be
your first fever when you were a kid, where you just like, this is it.
Oh, for sure.
This is it.
For sure.
Write your will out. I give my stuffed teddy bear. You know,
I mean, I was the kid that was very concerned about the hostage situation in Libya because I was convinced that Gaddafi was going to come and kill me. So just want to give you kind of like the background of who I was as a child.
Gaddafi's coming. The Ayatollah's coming. That was scary stuff when we were kids, man.
Yeah.
Like, and we grew up in a strange time too, you know, in the kind of the end of the Cold War.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of tension between us and everyone, pretty much.
The whole world, yeah.
And yeah, I remember at least we didn't have to do like the duck and cover stuff like our folks did.
We didn't have to do that, but they talked about it.
Yeah.
And they told us if there ever was a nuclear bomb, that's what we needed to do.
Hide under your desk.
Yeah.
Because that's going to save you.
Yeah. And then and then Terminator 2 came out and they had that scene where the kids are on the playground and they just fucking disintegrate. Like that fucked with me for months. Every noise I heard, I'm like, that's an A-bomb.
That was a messed up scene, actually.
That was a fucked up scene.
Yeah, that took me back there. I was like, oh yeah, I remember. That was upsetting, for sure.
It scared the shit out of me.
Kind of like spontaneous combustion.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's like a bomb had gone off on you. In you?
In you. I think the fear is that, like, it makes me wonder about the people that have gone through that, who have died from this. Like, how long are they aware that they're fucking on fire before they die? Like, that scares the shit out of me.
I mean, it probably would be excruciating.
Yeah.
I would think it'd be pretty bad for at least a while, you know, because usually when you die from a fire, it's from the smoke inhalation,
right,
not necessarily the fire itself.
Right.
But if your like insides are on fire, then there's no smoke. I mean, I just don't know.
So this phenomena is a really weird one, and it's something that I can see why, when it started happening in the 1700s, why people thought that it was something paranormal or different, or, you know,
possession. Because
what the majority of these cases have in common is that the bodies literally burn to ash. Bones and everything,
which is really hard to do.
It has to be super hot.
I mean, I don't know personally.
It is. It's almost like it is not easy to burn bone.
Yeah.
To ash.
Yeah.
It requires a lot of heat.
Mm-hmm.
But usually, what happens though is their legs or feet are left intact
because there's just not enough heat for that part.
It's weird. It's weird. And then also, you know, there's been different cases where they say, oh yeah, there was like an oily residue like on the walls and like around the body. And then the other weird part about it is, when this happens, is usually it's just the body that burns.
Right. And clothes are left alone sometimes, even.
Yeah.
Right?
The rest of the room won't burn.
Yeah, the chair they're sitting in.
Yeah, it might have some burns on it, but it doesn't burn down.
Yeah.
So how does that make sense? Like the heat is enough that you're gonna cremate yourself, but it doesn't burn the furniture
and not your furniture. Legs. Yeah. And what's up with the oil? Is that like
there's
bacon grease kind of splatter?
So there's a theory. We'll get into that in a minute, but there's a theory about it. So this has been happening for centuries. These unexplainable,
for a really long time.
Yes. We'll get into some of those specific cases here in a minute, but had you heard of these cases before? I brought it up. Had you heard of spontaneous combustion?
You know, just same thing with like when you were a kid, I was always looking in those weird books, you know, it was like Ripley's Believe It or Not kind of books
Yeah.
and things like that. And yeah, I remember seeing, I think it's the really famous one of this lady, and you just see her like her bottom half of her legs in shoes and in a chair, and that was it. And so yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. I've seen like stories of it, and apparently there's been a ton of cases of it. And I mean, still, I guess maybe they might have an idea of what does it now.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see.
There's I don't know that we have anything that's tied specifically to New Mexico, but this is definitely one of those universal.
It's kind of like the Hat Man one.
Yeah, and
in a
it's
way.
old.
Yeah.
It's way old.
Has it ever happened? I wonder in front of somebody else, like there's people have been bear witness to it, or is it one of those situations where you find the people after the fact and just be like, well, it must be spontaneous combustion.
No other explanation.
Yeah, there's no other explanation.
This, like I said, this is like the stuff of my nightmares, and I'm really excited to talk about it with you, and then hopefully get some kind of information that will make me feel better about it. I don't know if it will make me feel better. Even if there is a scientific explanation, it's going to suck. Yeah. It's going to make me feel terrible. So why don't you tell me about the first case then?
Well, the first case I found was like in the 1400s.
Shit.
Okay.
Okay.
What's wrong?
It's a long time ago.
Oh.
That's 600 years ago.
And it was about this Italian knight who really loved women and wine and that lifestyle, you know?
Yeah.
And apparently he had consumed 2 bottles of really strong wine and then started to basically vomiting flames, started puking flames all over the place, and then ignited himself basically in a fireball and just lit on fire in front of everyone. So yeah, that's one of the first cases I found.
Did his remains get cremated as well?
There's not much.
Say.
Yeah, there's not much talk about it just because it's so long ago, I think. But that's gnarly. I mean, maybe it was just really bad wine. You know what I mean? Like maybe it was fermented wrong.
Maybe it's actually kerosene,
right? Or maybe he was kind of a dick and someone poisoned him. I don't know. See how he'd be vomiting flame, unless the alcohol was so strong that it like ignited on something else, maybe, and then caught his clothes on fire or something like that. So that may not be a great case of spontaneous combustion, but that's one of the first cases where it's kind of documented in history where someone self-emulsified. Is that the word, emulsified?
I think so.
That's not right. Emulsification is like getting in a blender too much or something, isn't it? Because emulsification, if I think that's
immolation.
So that was close, but not close enough.
Self-immolation.
But that's actually using a accelerant to be able to do something like that. Yeah. And I don't know if this guy was just so drunk, maybe he got some oil on him, and it just looked as if all these things were happening to him. People weren't that smart back in the 1400s, so it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, and I have a case here from the 1700s, actually late 1600s, where a woman, they found basically just her skull in a pile of ashes and a couple of fingers, and everybody was like, well, she drank a lot, she was a big drinker, so that's why she started on fire.
Just so much booze in her,
too much alcohol. She was flammable from the inside.
You would have to have so much. I mean, you would be dead. You'd already be dead anyway.
Your liver would give out before you started on fire, probably.
I mean, it can't just be that, right? Where like, oops, I spilled my Everclear all over me next to my roaring fire, and
there was a countess that was found.
I was just looking at that one, the Countess Cornelia de Bondy.
Yeah, and
go for it.
Well, so they found her reduced to ashes in her room one morning, and they're like, it must have been a lightning bolt that came in through the chimney or the open window.
Yeah, well, that never happens.
That's never happened.
That never happens. And then it's to the point where you would light on fire.
Right. A lightning strike doesn't typically cause combustion.
Well, what does it say about her? She was like, she lived in the 1700s.
Yep.
She was found on the ground, basically between her bed and the window, and everything was gone. Ooh, once again, except for her lower legs and some fingers.
Yep.
She had apparently gone to the window, and yeah, no kidding. In the room, 2 candles had been burned, or at least the tallow. But wow. No, it didn't really say anything about electrocution, does it?
Well, no, but this is funny because the people that were investigating, they're like, nope, it had to be lightning strike that came from inside the chimney or whatever. And then when people were like, but nobody heard any thunder last night, and they're like, that's because you were sleeping too soundly.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah. Well, lightning happens without, I mean, it can happen without thunderclouds, or it could happen like super far away from it, right?
Yeah.
I just don't see that being really that possible. Like, but once again, this was when
1730s.
Yeah, well, there you go.
But her death is actually what caused people to start investigating this a little bit more seriously.
Oh, she was the jump off point.
Yeah.
She was like, ooh, maybe everyone was like, there's something to this, perhaps.
Yeah. Yeah. So then people started to actually look into it. So one of the people that was investigating it, he wrote a report. He said that in all of these cases, a flame from any candle, lamp, or cooking fire could not possibly consume a human body to the great extent that is seen in these cases, especially considering the bones are reduced to ashes. Under normal circumstances, other objects in the area of the body should have also caught fire, but the flame seemed to have been unnaturally confined to just the human remains. The most commonality in these cases is that the torsos are destroyed, but other limbs are not, and it's not something that would be caused by normal fire, where your limbs are typically destroyed before your torso is. The common presence of undamaged limbs is likely due to a fire that starts within the torso area of the body and runs out of fuel before reaching the tips of the extremities. And then these fires must occur and spread extremely fast for victims because they never seem to appear to have resisted it or tried to put out the flames. So the idea is that they probably died pretty quickly. Otherwise they would have done something.
I can't imagine how hot that fire would have to be. I mean, wood doesn't even burn hot enough to do something to totally get rid of all bone. You know, like a rib cage, the spine, the skull, the shoulder bones. I mean, all of that to be completely just dusted.
I mean, you're talking thousands of degrees.
Thousands and thousands of degrees.
Yeah.
I mean, like crematorium style heat.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, honestly. And there'd be no presence of accelerant. That's still the thing. Because I was kind of thinking in my head, oh, well, it sounds like someone just threw gasoline on this guy and lit him up, you know, but
that would spread everywhere else too. That kind of fire.
And it wouldn't be hot enough.
Right.
It wouldn't be hot enough to actually destroy all that material.
It would be, you would have like a charred corpse.
Yeah, exactly.
There, yeah. So the guy that was writing all this stuff, it took about 14 years before people actually started paying attention to his writings and his research, and his report was translated into English and then presented in London in a magazine. And the translation in English is actually what led to more and more people investigating these cases. Because of the newfound interest in this, and because of the translation of the article, people started to actually seek out these cases, and so start investigating it in different countries. But the Bianchini was the guy that first started to write about it. He felt like these deaths were all related to each other, and that there was something happening that was not understood. And he felt that maybe that these people were different in some way, like their bodies were different from others.
Flammable.
Right. From the inside.
Yeah. Maybe their body produced some kind of hyper accelerant, you know? I have a story about this guy. So in 1967, a passenger on a bus in England had noticed blue flames from a window of an apartment, apparently. And she thought it was like a gas like explosion, because, you know, gas like burns at that blue flame. When they called the firemen, or as they like to call them in the UK, the fire brigade, which sounds so much cooler, by the way, than just firemen. The fire brigade. That's awesome. They found the body of a Robert Francis Bailey, who was a homeless gentleman. And the firemen reported seeing a cut in the man's abdomen, his belly, and they saw like blue flames coming out of it. So we were talking about like that whole super high accelerant perhaps that maybe the body produces, that would almost be kind of maybe proof of it. I don't have much about like what happened afterwards, or like, being that it sounds like they kind of caught it in mid-action, like before
he actually burned up,
completely burned up.
But he was dead already,
I imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, right?
So what? So there was a hole in his stomach?
Yeah, like a cut, like a slit.
Do they think he was cut with a knife or something?
I don't know. Maybe it was just so much pressure that it kind of split open finally.
Oh God,
which is so gross to think about.
Scary.
Like pop open like a biscuit can.
I was hoping that I would be less scared after this episode, but I think I might get more scared now.
Do you know that spontaneous combustion actually won a court case?
Really?
Yeah.
I don't even know her.
So there's a story of the wife of a Parisian innkeeper in 1725, Nicole Millet, was found after her husband roused the entire place when he smelled smoke. What was kind of left of her was left in the kitchen, almost completely reduced to ash. And some wooden utensils, I guess, around her were even unburned. So like you were saying, the furniture around wasn't being burned or anything. I mean, like wood, you would think wood right next to something that's going so hot would catch fire as well, but it didn't. And I guess other accounts have her burned on a straw pallet, and only the straw was like burned like vague, like barely at all. And straw is super flammable.
Straw could catch fire just being outside.
Right.
Without anything.
Just look at it funny.
Yeah.
So that looks suspicious. So her husband actually was, tried for murder. But on the appeal, they actually fought it with the whole spontaneous combustion thing, and he actually won. It's weird. I guess they accounted it to being a visitation of God, is what they called it. And so don't get visited by God, apparently.
God's pissed, and he's going to burn you.
He will light you on fire.
He don't give a fuck. So there was another guy that followed the Bianchini guy that started doing more research into this, what they called preternatural combustibility. It was in the 1800s. His name was Pierre Lair, and he published his study on all of these spontaneous combustion cases that he had researched, which was, there was, I think, 15 of them. And his 8-pronged criteria for preternatural combustibility is, number 1, all these victims drank a lot.
Okay.
So that's the first thing. And number 2, the victims that he researched, they were all women. All of them were far advanced in age, which was probably like 35 back then.
Because no one lived past 41.
Right. All of them, according to him, were lit by outside sources of fire.
Lit. Oh, that kind of lit.
Yeah.
Oh, outside sources.
That's what he believes. In most cases, some of the extremities were left unburned, and it seems that water seemed to make the fire more intense.
Oh, good. So kind of like an
It'd be like
oil
a
on fire kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Ew, God, it's so gross, man. It keeps putting this gross image in my head.
It's gonna get
man.
worse.
Yeah. Oh, good.
It's gonna get worse. The fires are mostly confined to only damage their victims and nothing else, and reduced the bodies to ashes, as well as a stinging, penetrating soot.
Yeah. Do you think these guys just like, that show, My Weird Addiction or whatever?
Like the chick that eats Tide or whatever?
Yeah. Do you think these guys just eat like fryer grease or something? And they're just so easily ignitable? No, that's...
So he believed that those were the criteria, but he also said that it was likely that this wasn't going to cover all the cases of this, but these were just the cases that he researched. And then it became kind of like a popular thing where people were writing books about spontaneous combustion in the 1800s, and like
cashing in.
Yeah, like fiction books
about
it.
Yeah. How many of them were attributed to like devil possession or anything like that? Were they? I mean,
I don't know, but Charles Dickens used human combustion to kill off one of his characters in his novel Bleak House.
Well, he was really looking for anything at that point, huh?
Yeah. Well, he was like, what, the Stephen King of the time, probably.
I suppose, yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of Mary Reeser?
No.
Let me tell you about Mary. So in St. Petersburg, Florida, a landlady was working at a apartment building, and she was going around, and she had noticed that one of the doorknobs to one of the apartments was ridiculously hot. So instantly you think like fire, like, right? So the tenant, Mary Reeser, didn't respond at all. And they were able to get people to open the door. And what they did was they found her remains, Reeser's remains. In the middle of the 6-foot scorched like kind of area, because I mean it didn't affect anything but that little 6-foot area. Apparently they found a chair and an end table in the middle of the scorched area, and they were sitting upright, and there was no weird activity apparently. And a pile of newspapers were right next to the flames where they were. But the body had been once again reduced to ash. And here's the kind of weird part. The skull was basically shrunk down to the size of a teacup, apparently.
What?
Yeah. So I quote, "The body of, on the other hand, was reduced to ash except for a skull and a completely undamaged foot. Some reports, which just may be exaggerated, say that the skull was shrunk down to the size of a teacup." Unquote. I mean, how would that even work, right?
Yeah. That just doesn't make any sense at all.
Because even like shrunken heads don't have the actual skull in them. You know what I mean? It's just like treated skin, and
right.
to the point where it's so small, it's stuffed, They're not really tiny little, skulls in there.
Those freak me out too, by the way.
I've seen one before.
Ugh.
But anyway, so I think that's the famous one I've seen pictures of, where it's just the foot, and like you look everywhere and it would look completely normal.
Yeah, it's creepy as fuck. Just the idea that you could just start on fire and fucking melt, it just freaks me out.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Well, yeah, that's scary.
But see, I'm always like the "it's gonna happen to me" person.
Who hurt you?
A lot of people. A lot of people hurt me. I'm not even gonna lie. What's up, Alex?
Not much, Eric. How you doing?
Oh man, I'm not doing so great.
Why?
Because I think I have ghosts in my blood.
You have ghosts in your blood?
I think so.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure my blood is haunted.
Okay. What would you do to know for sure?
Well, I think I need to get some tests done.
Okay. Well, where is there a place that you could go to get your blood tested for ghosts?
I think so. Well, maybe not for ghosts, but maybe for some illnesses. Yeah. One of the things that I freaking hate.
Okay.
One of the things that I hate is having to call my doctor and for them to tell me, "Oh, your next appointment's going to be in April of 2026. Has that ever happened to you?
Constantly.
It's like every day.
Every day.
Every day. Well, I've got good news for you.
Okay.
There is a better way to do this.
Mm.
There's a company called Southwest Labs, and they can do all kinds of crazy testing on you to make sure that you don't have ghosts in your blood, make sure there's no poltergeists hanging out in your heart. They can check for STDs. They can check for COVID.
Okay.
You can get a COVID test there, and you don't have to schedule an appointment.
Yeah.
You can just walk in.
Do they do the testing like the way aliens do?
Yes.
Fantastic.
No, they don't.
Oh.
Sorry. but it is technologically advanced.
Fantastic.
So you'll get your results from a licensed doctor. They can do that via Zoom or some kind of other telemedicine. You don't have to even go into a doctor's office to get your results.
That's fantastic. How do I get in touch with them?
All you have to do is go to southwestlab.com or follow them on social media at Southwest Lab. All right, so it looks like in the 20th century, it kind of started to die down a little bit, the whole fervor around it. But it seems like the biggest, like it was from the 1600s to the late 1800s when everybody was freaking out about this.
Then everyone just said, "Oh well, I guess if I'm gonna light on fire, I'll light on fire." They weren't worried about it so much.
Well, and there's some ideas that like the reason there's so many cases is because people were actually like going to find and look for them. So as people are researching it, more stuff is going to come up.
Yeah, the more you look for it, the more you'll actually find them. Yeah.
Right. Do you have any other stories you want to
should
share?
talk about Jack Angel.
All right, so Jack Angel, he was somebody who had been hospitalized because he had been burned severely. And he sued the water heater company that produced his water heater in his house for $3 million. He said that he went to check on it and the heater blew up and scalded him. However, his doctor told him or found out that his body had actually burned from the inside out, not from the outside in. So then he changed.
Oh wait, so he actually survived then?
He survived.
Wow.
But then he changed his story and he was like, no, just kidding. I actually fell asleep and woke up with terrible burns all over my body. And he then decided he was going to sell that story
for $3 million
to make a book about spontaneous human combustion. And I guess like he might have been one of the few people that actually survived it.
That's crazy. I mean, you would think that the government would take you apart at that point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, ooh, it's the human flame. He can cause fire.
The human flame.
What was that movie? That Stephen King Firestarter.
Oh yeah, forgot about that movie.
Let me talk about a witness case.
Okay.
So there was only been one actual witness case to human combustion. So a woman was living with her father, and he cared for her because she was mentally handicapped. One day, out of the corner of his little eye, he actually turned and saw that she was on fire. But despite the flames and everything, she basically just sat there kind of calmly and took it. She just sat there and was basically on fire in a chair, not reacting to the pain that should be causing or anything like that. He attempted to put out the fire, but it really kind of just injured himself in doing so. She actually lived through the combustion, but slipped into a coma eventually, and then, succumbed to her injuries. But this indicates one of the weirdest parts of the human combustion, right? It's that it takes a very stupid hot flame to reduce, like you said, a body to ash, and so this was one of the first ones that it kind of didn't do it to, apparently. But, we actually had someone that watched it happen, which I can't even imagine watching that happen to your own kid. It's absolutely terrifying.
Well, and then if it is like a grease fire and you do throw water on it and you make it worse, like that would be the worst feeling to be like, oh, I could have helped you, but I actually killed you faster.
Yeah, it made it worse.
Jesus. So many cases that are just from tons and tons of history. All of it is spooky as fuck. And I know that there's some ideas of what could be responsible for this. Before we get into that, do you have more stories you want to talk about, or do you want to go right into the...
Let's talk about the latest case that's happened.
Okay.
The latest case had made headlines like September of not that long ago, a couple of years ago, and it's an Irish case. Happened in Ireland. People had actually found the body of an elderly man that was burned with his head near the furnace of his apartment. Okay. But the coroners and the medical investigators looked at it and decided that the furnace was not the source of the actual fire. Nor, once again, was there any kind of accelerant on the body or anything like that, or any kind of indication of foul play. So, I mean, apparently this happens way more often than we think.
Yeah.
Now, is it real or not? Let's talk about that.
So I think that it's real in the sense that people are actually dying from fire.
Yeah, people are dying. I mean, it's real that's happened.
Real.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's something supernatural. I think that there's probably a scientific explanation for it. I have one here, and I don't want to steal your thunder, but I have one explanation.
No, get it, man.
So, have you heard of the Wick effect?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is what I think a lot of skeptics and scientists feel is really what's happening here. And the idea is that your clothing acts like a wick in a candle, because what happens is when you start on fire, your fats start to melt.
Yeah.
And so your clothes become soaked in your fat, which would explain the oily residue,
like rendered fat
everywhere
in the spray that was going off, kind of thing.
Because it's probably popping.
And you know how you can hold a flame like right above a wick? You don't have to have it directly on.
And it'll pull the heat down. Yeah.
Enough to ignite it.
And so the idea is that because your clothing is soaked in fat, it acts like a wick, and what happens is you burn slowly, but also it gets very hot. And under certain conditions, it can create enough fuel. If you have enough fat in your body, it can create enough fuel to just completely burn you from the inside out.
Right.
And it would explain why nothing else around the people get burned either, because all of the fire is being controlled by your clothing, which is soaked in the fat. This doesn't make me feel better.
Well, I mean, is my shirt really that soaked in fat?
Well, not until you start on fire and your fat starts melting.
Damn it. Thank God I'm like 0.1% body fat.
Oh, wow. That was...
I'd be a fucking bonfire.
I mean, we are talking about stuff that's not real, so... So you're staying true to brand here.
I'm staying true to brand. So back in the Victoria time, they try to explain it. It was like alcohol, alcohol consumption.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if that was their way of trying to guide people away from alcohol in a weird way. With that,
I'm sure.
Because it was you said that during those time periods, a lot of people were writing about it and whatnot. And so I wonder if it's their own little weird manipulative ways.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure that has something to do with it for sure. So that's one theory. Do you have any other theories of what else it could be?
Really, it's just the wick effect, though. I mean, what I have here is just talking about that. It's just that simple, like, yeah.
Some of what people have speculated about too is, like a lot of these cases, there's people that are smokers. And so there's the idea that maybe somebody fell asleep with a cigarette in their hand or a cigar in their hand, and then it catches their clothes on fire. And then,
by the time they wake up, it's too late, kind of a situation.
Yeah.
I mean, and I can see that, right? I can totally see that. People used to do that all the time, fall asleep smoking and stuff like that. And I think that less people smoke now, hopefully.
Yeah.
But you can see that, right? What if they fell asleep with like a drink and a cigarette or something? They were too drunk, and they're gonna pass out too drunk and light themselves on fire, and they're not even gonna react, kind of like some of these people did. Or that original guy, he was vomiting fire.
Yeah.
Don't go to that bar.
Do not go to that bar. So another theory that has come up is that the idea is that you are burning at a lower temperature. It's actually not a hotter temperature, it's a lower temperature, and it's so slow
and low,
that it causes your body to just eventually turn to ash.
Right. Oh God. I mean, I guess it's so possible. Ew.
The other thing too is if it's a room that's not well ventilated, there's not enough oxygen in the room. It's not going to spread the fire.
That makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I wonder, I mean, how good was the ventilation back then? Even in the 60s and 70s.
Oh, yeah.
It
even
wasn't
the 80s
that great.
probably.
Right.
Yeah.
They didn't have really awesome HVAC systems that could, help you in that area.
So it doesn't seem like there's a supernatural component to this.
I think it is paranormal.
It is, because it's not normal, yeah.
I don't think that there's ghosts lighting us on fire. That's it. Ghosts are lighting them on fire. It's like the pyro ghost.
Oh my God.
They're not just flicking lights and taking shit in loaf pans. They're also lighting people on fire.
From the inside.
From the inside. I mean, who else could do it?
Yeah.
Well, I guess God, right? The visitation from God.
Did I ever tell you about my apartment burning down when I was like 5?
No. Did you do it?
No. This was before Jacob was born. We were living in South Texas in an apartment complex, and there was a neighbor downstairs who smoked.
Oh, shit.
And she fell asleep, and her cigarette caught her apartment on fire, and the whole building started burning.
Yeah.
And it was the middle of the night.
Did she make it?
I don't know, but it was the middle of the night, and we had a neighbor that was downstairs that would watch me sometimes. He was like a teenage kid. There was a swimming pool there. My mom would let me go swim with him and his brothers and whatever. And so I thought he was cool because he was like an older kid,
right? As all older kids were.
Yeah. And so anyway, he broke into our apartment and grabbed me out of bed and woke up my parents.
Oh shit!
And like ran downstairs and
saved your ass.
Saved my life. My dad, being the chivalrous, kind husband that he was just bounced. My mom hadn't fully woken up. She was still kind of asleep, so she went back to sleep.
Oh no, he
My
fucking
dad
just bolted.
my dad took off.
Self-preservation at its finest.
100%. And then the neighbor kind of yelled at my dad. He ran back upstairs, got my mom, picked her up, and brought her down the stairs. And as soon as they walked down the stairs, the fucking stairs collapsed.
Oh Jesus!
And yeah, I was like 4 or something.
That's terrifying.
3, and I remember being very afraid of my Play-Doh burning.
No, not the Play-Doh.
But the fire literally stopped next door to our apartment, so nothing in our apartment burned, but the rest of the complex did. It was really kind of spooky.
Ooh, we got lucky.
Yeah. So anyway, that didn't help my fear of fire.
Catching on fire.
Yeah, for sure. But I can see how a cigarette, I mean, they could be pretty destructive.
Yeah. And back then they smoked a lot of big old stogie cigars, so that would probably ignite a little bit easier, you know? So, I mean, I think maybe you could rest a little bit easier, buddy. I don't think you need to like stress. I don't think you're just going to totally just ignite, right? Unless you're close to, I wonder if that lady that, you know, her shrunken skull, was she near a flame source, you know? Because some of those you did say there was candles nearby, or it had near a furnace or something like that. So I wonder if she was, you know, maybe perhaps close to a flame. Maybe she could have been a smoker too, though.
What if she just burped and then there was like a spark at the same time and it went like inside of her?
Like backdraft?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like backdraft. Totally.
Well, this is a fascinating topic still. Even the scientific explanation of it is fascinating to me. I still think it's a crazy story. I still think it's a creepy ass thing to happen. Even if it's not like a ghost starting you on fire, it's still spooky and it's still weird. And
I'm glad there's not arsonist ghosts out there, though.
I even feel like the science is almost worse than the idea of something supernatural causing it, just because of the idea of like your fat turning you into basically a lamp.
Yeah. The Human Torch, man.
The Human Torch.
You know?
Yeah. Well, thank you for doing this with me. It's definitely not as exciting as I imagined in my head that it was going to be.
Why? I thought it was exciting.
It was exciting, but it's no...
I like hearing the stories.
It's no Chupacabra. It's no Skinwalker situation.
It still might get you. That's the thing. You know, it doesn't matter where you are, what you're doing, it can get you.
Did you see that post I did on Facebook about the Rhythm Is Gonna Get You song?
No.
When I was a kid, my mom she loved.
Oh yeah, how it scared you. Ooh, the rhythm is gonna get you.
I used to cry. I don't want the rhythm to get me.
And then they would do that. Ooh,
yeah,
and it would probably make you cry.
It scared me.
Fuck, man, everything scared you.
I was a chicken. I really was. I was afraid of everything.
Yeah, it's all right.
I'm still kind of like that.
We'll get you there. We'll get you. This show is going to help you like overcome some of those fears.
Well, I think that's why I'm obsessed with this stuff.
Dude, wait till we get to go like investigate some of these places we have an idea for, you know? We're going to put you in your uncomfortable place and we're going to go try to find some ghosts and maybe some paranormal activity around New Mexico.
I feel like we're going to have to video record that because
we'll just do live streams or something,
I'm going to be a mess and everyone's going to want to see that.
Yeah, I'm not going to be on camera. I'm going to be the one doing the camera.
You'll be egging me on
you.
Yeah, you'll be egging me on.
We actually I might have somebody in mind for doing the camera work, actually.
Oh, sweet.
So it might make it kind of easy that we can both be on
I like easy
screen because
and
you know how much we love the spotlight.
We do. We're narcissists, so
You're a narcissist.
I'm probably the opposite of a narcissist.
Right. Both of us are.
I'm a hypochondriac and extremely fearful.
Yeah, you got mad phobias.
I got a lot of phobias.
Yeah.
But I think that's why I'm obsessed with all this like paranormal stuff and true crime stuff, is because I feel like
the more you learn about it, the more you can be okay with it.
Exactly. It helps my anxiety to
I totally understand
to become aware of what what's actually happening.
I feel that. Well, I hope you don't catch on fire tonight, buddy.
Thank you. I appreciate
Stay
that.
away from any open flame.
Don't smoke any cigarettes
Nope.
tonight.
That was fun.
It was fun.
Do you want to talk about like links and things like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we appreciate all of our listeners. We appreciate those of you that have taken time to leave us a review, for those of you who have shared and told your friends about us. And we are super, super grateful for our patrons and our coffee subscribers. If you want to support us and help fund this shit show, you can go to patreon.com/dospuquenos or ko-fi.com/dospuquenos. Those are the two ways to do that. You can also just give us a shout out on social media.
Yeah.
You could leave us a review on iTunes. All those things help us.
They do.
And it helps our egos.
Also, listen to Great.
Yes.
Listen to Great. It's our new little project. It's just us talking shit, having fun.
It's basically Dos Spookquenos without the spooky.
Yeah, yeah. It's like Seinfeld. It's a show about nothing and about everything at the same time.
We pick one topic per episode and we just talk about it for an hour until we're sick of hearing each other talk.
Basically. And yeah, we're looking for ways to get the listeners involved with that. Maybe trying to have you guys come up with some things. Maybe we can do an episode about that. Kind of like how we do it with Tiny Terrors.
Yeah.
You know, you come up with a subject and we'll just rap about it off the top of the head.
Yep.
Yeah.
I feel like we're going to eventually need a wheel of topics.
Right. Or
we just spin the wheel.
I totally agree. I think we should.
And we're going to have some special guests. Actually, I've got a couple lined up for us for Great.
I have one too.
Yeah.
Maybe one for Dos Pequeños as well.
Sweet.
Yeah. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Lots of good stuff to come.
Yes.
We're going to have watch parties for our patrons. We're going to do some live stuff into maybe some different locations now that things are becoming a little bit more safe for us to travel like we want to. So stay tuned. It's going to be fun.
And with that,
stay spooky.
Peace.